Mystique's family tree is going to be a little different compared to the many others I've done up until now. Well, because her backstory is shrouded in mystery, hence the name Mystique. That may be her supervillain epithet, but it seems her real name is Raven Darkholme. But that's as far as the many X-Men comic writers will go with her origins. We don't know who her parents are, so this family tree will just have to begin with the mutant of the hour. And there's no mention of siblings. We don't know where she's from, or even how old she is. She's a mutant with abilities to shapeshift into any organic matter. This power also allows her to reshape and rejuvenate her cells, so she doesn't age like the average person. We can say with certainty that she's well over 100 years old, but who knows, she can be even far older than that. We get this 100-year timestamp during the 2001 issue of Extreme X-Men. Before she was Mystique, Raven Darkholme worked as a consulting detective in the early 1900s. She was hired by another mutant named Irene Adler, a blind woman with the powers to see into the future. Irene hired Raven to help her decipher the visions she had and help form an ideal future. This would be their lifelong goal, and soon the two would fall in love. Irene would be known as the mutant Destiny, and Mystique would be looked at as a terrorist for the crimes she committed during their mission. Destiny was able to look past Mystique's unique base form, likely due to her blindness. She has a physical mutation unrelated to her powers, giving her blue skin and yellow eyes. A little ominous. Everything about her is very mysterious, but she's also very powerful. Her shapeshifting powers aren't limited to people, so you can let your imagination run wild. Turning any part of her body, or all of it, into any organic matter has made Mystique the ultimate criminal and spy. She can even alter her voice and scent to match the appearance she so chooses. Her first child is born from a short-lived fling between herself and Sabretooth. But Sabretooth, aka Victor Creed, didn't know it was her. She disguised herself as another woman during the entire time they were lovers, and when Mystique grew tired of him, she left. The woman she was disguising herself as recently died, so Sabretooth wouldn't find out that he got played until many years later. He was on a mission to assassinate Mystique when she told him the truth. Sabretooth believed it was the first time he had met her, but she shapeshifted back into that woman, leaving him in disbelief. She revealed it was her all along back then, and that he actually impregnated her during their fling. Victor Creed asks if the child became a mutant too, but Mystique tells him the boy was unremarkable and boring, so she abandoned him. The child was given the name Graydon Creed after his father, and grew up to hate his parents, and all mutants for that matter, for the way Mystique treated him from being just an ordinary human. His hatred led him to form an anti-mutant organization that would attack their kind for simply being the way they are. A lot of people share this hatred for mutants in this world, so Graydon decided to run for president with fear-mongering the focus of his campaign. But before any election was held, Graydon was assassinated during one of his speeches. It would be revealed later that it was his own mother, Mystique, responsible for his death, a Mystique from an alternate future timeline. She would have one more natural son, but wouldn't treat him much better. Mystique would one day return to Germany, the location where Graydon was conceived. She would marry a rich and powerful baron named Christian Wagner. During this part of her life, she kept the name Raven, but altered her appearance to seem more attractive to the baron she sought after. He was a nobleman who even owned a castle of his own. She couldn't be with a man of this status with her blue skin, so she hid it. He had no idea that she was the evil mutant shapeshifter. When it came time for the baron to desire an heir, Raven was 100% down. Excited would be a better word to describe her emotions. She didn't care for Christian, but having a child with him would solidify her ties to his resources that she could benefit from. But they had trouble getting pregnant. Raven was tested for being barren, but she was fine. It was Christian who was infertile. During a ball in their castle, Raven was introduced to a business partner of Christian named Azazel. She would fall in love with him, something she only ever shared with Destiny. Raven would cheat on her husband and get pregnant by Azazel, but this time it would be Raven that get played. Azazel laughed off her love confession and told her he only needed her to birth a child for him. He had been searching for a woman power enough to handle the physical strain needed to deliver one of his children. Azazel wasn't who he seemed. He was shapeshifting to maintain the appearance that everyone saw. He was in fact a demonic-like mutant called a Neopheme, but they were all exiled into an alternate dimension by angel-like mutants called Chearaphim thousands of years ago during a holy war. Their leader, Azazel, is only able to briefly escape this dimension due to his powerful teleporting powers. He says his only hope to return to Earth is by impregnating women, since his children are linked to his dimension. He tells Mystique to return to the Baron and raise a child as his in their castle, and then leaves her. Christian Wagner grew suspicious of the pregnancy since he believed it would never happen, and saw how much time Raven was spending with Azazel. He planned on having the child take a blood test once it was born, But if it was his, he told Raven she would live in luxury for the rest of her life. She knew it wasn't his child, so killed her husband and buried the body. Even after Christian's disappearance, the villagers allowed her to remain the Baroness until the child was born, but the delivery went horribly wrong for Raven. Azazel didn't lie when he said it would take a great physical toll to birth one of his children, because she was unable to maintain her human form and everyone saw her natural blue skin. Not only that, but the baby was also born blue skin, yellow eyes, and one more curious physical trait, a long pointed tail, something he got from his demonic father. He also got his father's pointed ears, but luckily not his red skin. For some reason, he was born with 3 fingers on each hand and only 2 toes on his feet. Unlike his parents, he can't hide his true form from cowards afraid of his unusual appearance. The villagers considered both Raven and the newborn Kurt Wagner to be demons and hunted them down in an attempt to kill them. Mystique got away, like how she usually does, but abandoned her baby in the process. While it seemed like little Kurt fell a great distance into a body of water, Azazel actually teleported him away into safety. Kurt would keep the Wagner name, even though having no blood relation and never inheriting the Baron's position of power. He would instead be raised by a powerful sorceress named Marjali Zardos. Kurt became her adopted son, but she had 2 other children from a previous marriage, a son named Stefan and a daughter named Germaine. With all her magical powers, Marjali had been living as a fortune teller for a local circus in Germany. Kurt and Germaine would perform here as trapeze artists, a talent that came naturally to Kurt because of his mutated body. He loved his life here. Everyone cheered on the amazing Nightcrawler. He couldn't be seen by others unless he was performing because of his appearance, but he had good friends in his foster siblings. He grew famous and started gaining worldwide attention. Too much attention. Everything changed when an American man bought out the circus and shipped the Nightcrawler to a Florida circus location to be part of its freak show. He was drugged and kept sedated so that he wouldn't escape. He had only recently discovered his mutant powers of being able to teleport when he hit puberty. He would have been able to teleport out of the freak show cage if he wasn't constantly drugged. It would be from the help of a young child that Nightcrawler would be freed. This whole time, he deeply missed his adoptive sister, who he had grown mutual feelings for. He returned to his old circus in a German village, but found dead children laying around. His brother Stefan was responsible for the murders, claiming they weren't children, just demons in disguise. Kurt stopped him from killing the last child who was still moving, but accidentally killed Stefan in the process. Marjali and Germaine were nowhere to be found. The villagers only saw Kurt mourning over his dead brother with the corpses of all the children around him, so they assumed the blue-looking demon was responsible and went after him. This is the fated moment where Professor Xavier steps in and saves the day. Nightcrawler has been a member of the X-Men ever since. His adopted mother, Marjali, hated Kurt for what happened to her son, Stefan, but she didn't know the whole story. She was set on getting revenge, but Germaine wasn't convinced. She knew Kurt better than that. She left her home village and became a flight attendant. She hid her true identity and called herself Amanda Sefton and sought after her foster brother. She found him and began dating him while still hiding her true identity. She only revealed the truth to Kurt when Marjali tracked him down and attacked. They all made up, and Amanda/Germaine has been his main love interest for a while, even though it has been on and off. During all this time, his deadbeat mom, Mystique, found herself a daughter of her own to adopt. Anne-Marie had been on her own ever since her mutant powers manifested in the middle of her first kiss with a boy. She sucked the life out of him and left him comatose. She isolated herself in a wooded area in the Mississippi Bayou, and people began calling her Rogue after she ran away. She went as far as covering her body so that no one would accidentally make skin-to-skin contact with her. It was Destiny who told Mystique to find Rogue and take her in, who claimed she would be important. They raised her together, but the two made Rogue one of the members of the Brotherhood of Mutants, a not-so-good terrorist group with an anti-human agenda. Destiny would die an old woman, something that Mystique didn't take well. Even though they weren't always together through the years, Destiny was the closest thing to a soulmate for Mystique. Her lover's death left her feeling angry and abandoned. It was a character-defining moment that she would never get over. Mystique raised Rogue to be a difficult villain to deal with, even for the Avengers. She's defeated Ms. Marvel and absorbed her powers for a long period of time after the battle. She's even defeated Thor, Captain America, and Vision in the same fight. Unless you can avoid Rogue touching your skin, she's very tricky to deal with, since it's one touch and an almost instant KO. Eventually, she would turn to the X-Men for help, or more specifically Professor Xavier, because after absorbing someone's energy, she also takes on some of the memories. Absorbing so much of Ms. Marvel was messing with her head, and needed the help of the all-powerful telepath. She joined the team alongside her sort-of brother Nightcrawler. When Mystique finally revealed the truth to Nightcrawler about her being his real mother, Rogue would be the one to tell him more about her. There wasn't much she could say since she's so mysterious. Rogue says, "I spent nearly 10 of the most impressionable years of my life with that woman, and I can honestly say I don't understand her any more today than the day that we met."
You are inconvenient. I suppose you hate me for that.
No, but I am sad for you.
Sad? You want to talk about sad? I am a shapeshifter, an outcast, even among mutants trusted by no one.
Later on, Kurt would be forced into his father Azazel's dimension, and not only find out his father is a man who proclaims himself to be Satan, but that he has many other siblings. Dozens of Azazel's demon-like children were mind-controlled, including Kurt, into forcing an opening between dimensions. This killed all his siblings that he had never met before, all except a half-brother named Kiwi Black and another half-brother who went by Abyss, both mutants. Kiwi Black can create energy that flows through his weapons. Abyss has a bunch of different powers, but the main one being creating a portal-like black hole into his father's dimension. After the newly introduced brothers foiled their father's plan, they return back to Earth. Azazel shows no remorse for sacrificing all his children for nothing. He actually just brushes it off and plans on impregnating many more capable women to try to break out again. During the run of X Factor, Mystique also took on the identity of a senator's wife for a while, and even pretended to be the mother of his daughter. The daughter caught on pretty fast, compared to her slow father, and Mystique pretty much came out and admitted to being a manipulative, power-hungry shapeshifter to her. And that's where the family tree ends. Well, if you don't count X-Men's wacky alternate dimensions, where Mystique has a child with Professor Xavier, and a son with Wolverine. In another alternate reality, Nightcrawler has a child with a Scarlet Witch named Talia Wagner, who becomes a hero under the name Nocturne. She has her father's looks and some of her mother's hex powers, and also some abilities of her own, like possessing other people. The arguably psychotic Mystique has gone out and made one crazy family for herself. Just look at these guys getting along. I know I skipped over a lot of backstory and some story arcs each member of this family went through, but the X-Men comics have been running for decades. Don't think one video can hold all the wild twists the different writers have brought to this franchise. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all soon. Thanks for watching.